Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here on my poem to write a poem. There were some things that I thought it would be fun and interesting to mention, and my poem videos have been my least viewed historically, so this is purely an indulgence. And if you enjoy this, then you should take extra enjoyment out of the fact that I do this, because there's like 36 people that watch these. All right, to write a poem, the poem about it. This was a fun poem to write, and there were a couple fun things about it. The opening stanza, it kind of feels like a sort of writing an essay or talking about writing an essay. It's very laconic or something like that. It's sort of relaxed. It's sort of, let's just go through it. I wanted to write a poem about how to write a poem. I thought maybe I'll make it rhyme. It won't be a huge tome. Now, the way that reduces down into that third sentence is just sort of like I'm just rambling off thoughts, Making it rhyme shouldn't take too much time. So that's kind of a fun thing. It rhymes. See, you've got poem and tome, which you can't rhyme with poem, right? You can't rhyme with poem or silver or orange, but I did it. I rhymed poem with tome. And you can't, and so I rhyme with time. Anyways, those rhyme. So that's fun. It's got rhythm and structure and rhyme. I wanted to write a poem about how to write a poem. I thought maybe I'll make it rhyme. It won't be a huge tome. Making it rhyme shouldn't take too much time. Now, it's not clumsy, but it's not sonorous. And it strikes this balance where you're going, what's happening here? Is this like an essay? Because it's not an essay, because there's too much rhyming. And down here it even rhymes, rhyme and time rhyme in the same line. So that is like too sing-songy. So that is like, it's going off the rails here. Is this an essay or a poem? It's really too poetic to be a poem. It's a wreck. Okay, so I wanted to write a poem about how to write a poem, and this stuff is a wreck. So I started to write my method described, listing the steps one should take. I gave some advice about when to abide by the rules and when to forsake. And this comes into stride. That has no worries. You just walk right on through that. So I started to write my method described, listing the steps one should take. I gave some advice about when to abide by the rules and when to forsake. And there's an interesting, fun thing we do in here. You're not supposed to cross over this line here, this ending, this comma, this period. You're supposed to come to a pause there and be able to put a period there. But I said, well, this is about breaking rules. And it's one thing to say, here's the rules in poetry. You rhyme and you do meter and you have a rhyme scheme. But sometimes, blah, blah, blah. So when do you sometimes? And so if this is a sentence about the sometimes, then maybe I should give an example of the sometimesing in the sometimesing sentence. So sometimes you're not going to use that comma at the end, and it makes this a little fun. I gave some advice about when to advise. You know what? I'm worried about this. That's supposed to be a C. Damn it to hell. I printed a copy of this. Damn it, I printed a copy with advise on there. Anyways, I gave some advice about when to abide by the rules and when to forsake. And you are forced to pause there because the rhythm demands it. And yet the sentence says you can't pause there. You have to go ahead and read. I gave some advice about when to abide by the rules and when to forsake. Then if at first you pause there and you say, well, it interrupts the sentence a bit. But if you go ahead and read it just like this, watch this. Let's back that up and do this. And then we can even do this. Watch if we do this. I gave some advice about when to abide by the rules and when to forsake. You see, we could present it that way as well. And fair enough. If you do it like this, the presentation is a broken rule. If it doesn't matter which way you read it, it's fun either way. And the broken rule makes it fun, and it's a sentence about breaking rules, so it's fun. So that's what was fun there. And the whole thing flows so nicely. After starting out, you're starting out going, what is this train wreck of jumbled and then too much rhyming here at the end? What's going to happen? Then you come into this, and this is just nice and smooth. And you've got described and abide and take and forsake, and those are nice. All right, moving on. Rhyme schemes and meter are key. These give flavor to what you produce. Have some vocabulary and write on whatever you choose. And what I like about this is vocabulary. You can sort of stretch it out, have some vocabulary. But you don't have to. Have some vocabulary and write on whatever you choose. You can read it either way, and it actually flows nicely, and it's sonorous, and it works with the sentence above and below. Rhyme schemes and meter are key. These give flavor to what you produce. Have some vocabulary and write on whatever you choose. And now we get to answer that last sentence with this one. You can write about history, war, or love. Now, there's the option of whether you use this as your first sentence and then you go ahead and talk about that, or do you end with that and then you talk about it in the next stanza? Now that sort of ties the stanzas together, so maybe it's okay. You can write about history or war or love. Now, what you want to do is you want to say love or war. You really want to. And if you just went and spat this out, if I woke you up in the morning and said, you can write about history or what? And you would say love or war. That's how you would do it. So war or love is a little awkward if you run it through a few times. And then look what happens. Poem exists on all subjects above. So we did that so we could rhyme, and it's nice to get that. Otherwise, we're rhyming with war, which is pretty easy. You can rhyme with war. It's much easier than rhyming with method, which we should talk about in a second here. But if you're rhyming with love, that's easy. But maybe there's some reason why I reversed those. I don't know. But they shouldn't be reversed. In normal speaking, you say love and war. All's fair in love and war. We say that all the time. So war and love is reversed. It's a little awkward. And maybe that stops you from expecting something along those lines. It's a different word order, so it doesn't trigger that memory. Maybe that's why I did that. I'm not sure, but I did reverse it from what is commonly used. That term is commonly used as love and war. You can write about history or war or love. Poems exist on all the above. Poems exist on all subjects above. I once knew a guy who wrote a poem, you see, about writing a poem on poem writing. The end. And what's fun here, I think, is the use of the word poem 3 times in that sentence, which is a little reckless, but I think I pulled it off. Now up here, I originally had, so I started to write and describe my method, listing the steps one should take. And then I started saying, well, how do I rhyme with method? And I said, method, stethid, pethid, crethid, I don't know. What the hell rhymes with method? So I went to ChatGPT and said, what rhymes with method? And I'll just read you what it said. Good question. Method is a bit tricky because it doesn't have many perfect rhymes in English. The closest options are slant rhymes, near rhymes that echo the sound. Record, redwood, manhood, likelihood, deadwood. They echo the ed or hood ending without being exact. So the poetic strategy. Because method resists perfect rhyme, poets often use assonance or consonants, echoing vowel or consonant sounds instead of full rhymes, like method ended. Or they switch to multi-word rhymes. Method, said what or method, led good. Method led good. Method led good. They use enjambment to soften the rhyme expectation. I said, wow, okay. So that's what Slant GTP said. Chat GTP had to say. So I decided, instead of screwing around, so I started to write my method described. Just reverse them. And you can do that in a poem because you can be a little, people allow that in a poem, especially if it works, especially if you can pull it off. If you just do it and make it awkward and it's like, man, he's just forcing it by reversing these words here, then it didn't work and you screwed up. All right, well, let's see, what else do I have? I went through each thing. I think we've gone over this. I think we've chewed this, ladies and gentlemen. This has been fun. Thank you for watching, and thank you for enjoying. I'll just read it through one time here at the end to savor as we depart. To write a poem. I wanted to write about how to write a poem. I thought maybe I'll make it rhyme. It won't be a huge tome. Making a rhyme shouldn't take too much time. So I started to write, my method described, listing the steps one should take. I gave some advice about when to abide by the rules and when to forsake. Rhyme schemes and meter are key. These give flavor to what you produce. Have some vocabulary and write on whatever you choose. You can write about history or war or love. Poems exist on all subjects above. I once knew a guy who wrote a poem, you see, about writing a poem on poem writing. The end. Darn it, I do have to say one more thing. The rhyme scheme changed. And it changed because I felt like it needed to here at the end. I felt like it was a better way to end it with couplet. You see up here it's key, produce, vocabulary, choose. And then it's love above, and see, writing. And up here it was described, take, abide, forsake. So I switched it at the end to couplets. And I think it worked. I think, if I sat and thought about it, I could come up with 5 minutes of reasoning on why. But I don't know off the top of the head why I did that. Anyways, thanks for viewing. Appreciate any Patreons, and see you in the future.